What's going on, golf fans? It's your boy Gsluke here with our DFS value plays for this week's Mexico Open down at Vidanta, Vallarta. Going to break down the bottom end of the Draftkings pricing and bring you 4 dumpster diver plays, diamonds in the rough, whatever you want to call them, plays that are going to give you some salary flexibility towards the top end of the board to perhaps spend up for an extra stud, and in many cases, I'd say at least 3 of the 4 players here get some much needed ownership leverage. So with a lot to get into, let's go ahead and get this started. With our core plays, I'm trying to target guys $8,000 and above, and for these plays, the value plays, right, $8,000 and below. So towards the top end of that range, we've got Will Gordon, $7,900, and I'm somebody that plays Gordon a lot more than most, and it's just because of the high upside skill set. He's a player that tends to gain 4+ strokes to the field, a lot more than his counterparts. On the opposite end of that, he's also a player that tends to bleed strokes a lot more often than most. So in GPP, highly volatile sort of contest where you're trying to get that true top end upside, right? Get one of those top 5-6 finishers in that lineup. He brings a lot more of that equity than pretty much everyone else around him, which is why I find him so attractive, why I play him so much out there week to week when it comes to DFS. And at this specific course, I like him even more. It's a bomber's fest. If you didn't see the course breakdown, my core plays videos, I'm really looking at driving distance here. Those long irons are extremely important around Vidanta, Vallarta, and on par 5 scoring, putting on past Palm, and he checks all of those boxes emphatically. In fact, if you take a look over the last 36 rounds, you can see that he's gaining both off the tee and on approach. Not a ton of players in the range can say that and still have respectable short game, right? And by respectable, he's a slight loser both around the green with the putter, but he's not losing a stroke per round with the flat stick like a Luke List. He's capable of producing pop performances. When he goes out there, he's able to gain with the flat stick is typically when Will Gordon is posting those first round leader sort of performances. And in a weaker field event, I think he's got truly top 3, even winning upside at this sort of golf course. So I think the ownership is going to be there. Most of the guys in the top of the 7K range tend to get quite a bit of steam, as it's a pretty normal landing spot when pretty much putting together any sort of lineup. So don't expect this to be a play that you're getting a bunch of leverage to. I'm looking to probably get about 25, maybe 30% exposure myself if I'm feeling a little bit frisky about playing Will Gordon this week. But unlike some of the other plays that we go through here, he will have quite a bit of ownership behind him. So it's still a little early to speculate on that. But compared to some of the guys around him, I do expect people to land on Will Gordon. That's despite not having the best form. So if we go up here to $7,900, missed cut 36.54th, I think that's the only saving grace that we're going to have here. You take a look at the event history. Let's see, where is he at? Will Gordon did not play here last year. I'm hoping that that keeps the ownership respectable, right? I'm hoping that we're not getting 15% plus ownership on a Will Gordon, because that would become problematic, right? Then you'd have to play 30% to get that leverage, which would become a little bit uncomfortable. But as of right now, I've got him in the low teens in terms of that ownership, which is something that I'll definitely be able to get over the field on. Next up, we've got ourselves Akshay Bhatia, $7,400, and I've heard his name thrown around quite a bit this week, which is slightly disappointing because the form hasn't been there. Kind of like a Will Gordon, this is all about the upside. Missed cut 46, 24th missed cut. Start before that, second place at the Puerto Rico Open. So he's played well at a similar comp. In fact, Corrales is my number 2 comp course this week. Another long paspalum course from tee to green that requires you to hit driver off the tee a whole bunch and hit long irons. Precisely, particularly on some of the par 5s, which is the same kind of skill set that we're looking for this week at Vidanta Vallarta. So Akshay Bhatia, I think from the skill set standpoint, checks the boxes we're looking for. If we take a look at the shots gained metrics over the last 36 rounds, so kind of take a step back here, you can see he's a plus in both of the ball striking categories, a slight loser with both of the short game categories. That's kind of what you're looking for this week. This is a resort style course. It's not difficult to get up and down around here. You're not going to see a bunch of separation in the field when it comes to around the green play. So some of the guys that are maybe below average in that category, I'm really not all that worried about it this week. And even the putters tend to be a little bit more condensed this week. You're not going to have a bunch of guys gaining 8-9 strokes to the field. A majority of your top end finishers are players that are differentiating themselves with the off the tee play and the approach play, which In Akshay Bhatia's short little time span here on the PGA Tour, that's been his strong suit, right? Especially of late. We zoom in a little bit more to the last 12 rounds. Again, this includes a bunch of missed cuts. You can see he's still gaining 0.6 strokes per round on approach, right? Again, the around the green has not been pretty, but if any golf course is going to let players get away with that, it's this style of golf course. And then just a slight loser with the putter. So hopefully that past palm grass can spike him out there. He can go out there, gain a few strokes on those surfaces, because with that ball striking, that tee to green play, I'm expecting himself to at least make the cut, if not get himself into that top 10. And the ownership, just worth noting, right? I have heard them thrown around. A few people out there are going to play Akshay this week, which I understand, right? There's a reason why I'm also playing Akshay, but I don't think it's going to be anything crazy with the ownership. He's not in the top end of that 7K range. There's a bunch of options priced around him, right? Like that top end of the 7K range gets peppered in builds. It's a natural landing spot that pretty much if you're hand building a lineup, you're going to be drawn to that range. Down here in the middle end of the 7K range, there's just more options to choose from, and it's not as much of a natural resting area. So hopefully the ownership's a little bit more moderate there, perhaps closer to like 7, maybe 8% this week. That's where I've got him at right now, which is another number that I am comfortable getting over the field on. Next up, we've got ourselves Cameron Champ, and I'll remind you, if you want access to all of my ownership projections, all of my modeling player pool, all of my prop analysis that I'm posting for round by round at these events, check out the Patreon page. There's a link down in the description of the video. Next up, we've got Cameron Champ, $7,100, and last time I talked him up here, he missed the cut on the number, so I almost looked like a genius. There's certain courses where Cameron Champ, no matter what form he's in, I'm going to play him, and last year, he proved me right here. We ended up playing him at this event at essentially no ownership, was extremely cheap, and finished in the top 10, and for a while there on Sunday, was in contention to actually win the golf tournament. So the reason why is super evident. This is a course where off the tee distance is rewarded, and it's completely wide open. Kind of similar to a 3M Open, there is water in play, but you can play away from the water. Like if you're just manage the golf course, particularly off the tee, you don't really have to worry about the water hazards. They're really mental mistakes if you're going to hit it into the hazards this week. And for somebody like Cameron Champ, who won at the 3M Open, he had the top 10 finish here last year, courses where that distance is rewarded, you see him filter to the top. And courses where he can't hit driver off the tee, you see this guy finishing in next to last place. So if there's going to be a track for him to shine, it's at a course that, again, plays into that skill set. And another part of his repertoire, we'll say, will be the long irons. You get him on those par fives, he hits the ball so high with such ease that he's able to get the ball to stop softly on those surfaces. And even the 600-yard par fives here, I mean, if you're getting any sort of rollout around Vidanta Vallarta, he's going to be able to reach those par fives as well. And in fact, might be one of only 3-4 players in the field that is going to be able to reach those long holes. So $7,100, the form has not been there. I will say, if you take a look at some of these missed cuts, 3 of them, at least 3 of the last 5, have been on the number. One of them, the last time we talked him up, he missed the cut on the number 2 events ago out there on the PGA Tour. He's still playing in these top-end events, right, because he had that win at the 3M Open. Must we forget that Cameron Champ, about once a year, it's like almost like a once a year, maybe once every year and a half kind of pace, just wins a golf tournament out of nowhere. And 3M Open's a spot I think we got to bet him going forward, and this is a golf tournament where I'm going to do so. So not only am I playing him a DFS this week, I'm betting him outright. So sounds crazy, but when people were betting him at the 3M Open, which I was one of those people too, he had no form to speak of there either. So $7,100, you feel horrible doing it. He's gaining on past volume. You can see he's gaining 0.64 shots gained per round. Fire me up. Let's get out there, Cam Champ. So lastly, we got another pivot play, also worth noting with Cameron Champ. Going to be next to no ownership. I think a few people will get there because of the bomber narrative, just as I am. I do think a few people will look at the course history, perhaps click them in a few lineups, but it's not going to be anything to worry about. I think at most 5% ownership, and I plan on playing about 15 to maybe even 20% this week. So I'm going to have no issues getting leverage there. And lastly, we've got the pivot play of all pivot plays, and this is another risky prospect, but guys, this field's absolutely dog shit. I mean, Martin Trainer, $6,800. Enough said. Cody Gribble, $6,700. Chris Stroud is $67. We're below is $6,600. This guy's normally flat $6K, right? The field is as bad as it's going to get, particularly down low. So a Dylan Fratelli at $6,800 normally would be priced around this range anyways, right? Even in some of the stronger fields, usually the sports books and then in turn, Draftkings tends to give a lot of respect to Dylan Fratelli because the sports books know his upside. When Dylan Fratelli is playing well on approach, and that's really all it comes down to because he's a flusher off the tee, one of the longest players in this field, one of the more skilled putters in the world when he's also playing well. But the iron play is really what carries his game. And when he has his iron play, this guy contends. Like, he's the kind of guy that misses cuts, misses them horribly, or goes out there and ends up getting into the top 5. So kind of like Cameron Champ, if you're looking for a guy in form, run the other direction. But if he was in form, he would also be probably $8,500 because when he gets on that streak and he gets things moving the right direction, he's one of the highest upside players in this field. So Dylan Fratelli there withdrew. Actually, I don't know what that's about. So, hopefully doesn't have anything injury-wise going on, but based on what I understand, based on what I've seen, I don't have any information for you there. So, obviously, if that scares you off, and don't play him, right? But, there's a reason why he's going to be 2% owned, right? If I play him in 7, maybe 10% of my lineups, I know what I'm getting myself into. So, WD, missed cut, missed cut, missed cut. I had to say, it was like 4 events ago, I played Dylan Fratelli in a showdown round. I was tracking him early in the morning. He missed 8 straight drives to the right. 4 of them required penalty strokes. I believe 2 of them were out of bounds. So the off the tee play, I'm scared to look at this, honestly. This is the kind of play where you kind of just put him into a lineup and then you close your eyes, that sort of thing. Yeah, he's losing off the tee, losing on approach, gaining with the short game. That's very much so on brand. This off the tee, though, he's only losing 0.2. I bet you if we zoom in, it gets a little bit worse. Because that performance, yeah, so you can see, right, losing 0.7 strokes, per round over the last 12. So that 36 round sample size is heavily impacted by that performance, right? In fact, he's normally probably gaining off the tee, gaining around the green and gaining with the putter. It's all about the approach play, like I'm saying, where he's losing a stroke per round. Like, don't get me wrong, it has been horrible of late, right? It's asking a lot for that to turn around. But in this week of a field, if it does, right, he gains in the other 3 stat categories, top 5, top 10 finish upside, and he's $6,800. So you've definitely got to have a set down there. You got to have a little bit of boldness to go out there and play Dylan Fratelli at this price tag. But kind of like a Cameron Champ, got to know what you're getting yourselves into. And when these players end up hitting in this kind of field, they could be the nuts to go out there and take down one of those top end contests. So great plays to get leverage to. Fratelli, kind of like Champ, no one's going to play him, even more so than Champ. I think Dylan Fratelli is maybe at most 2.5% owned. And if that's going to be the case, you put him in 5% of lineups, you're getting the leverage you need, let alone if you go to the 10% mark that I'm considering at this point, maybe even more aggressive if I want to get a little bit frisky about it. Again, upwards of 5-6x leverage in some of those contests. Alrighty, guys, that is all I've got for this week's value plays. Before you hopping out of here, comment down below your number 1 play priced $8,000 and below on DraftKings, and give me a little nugget why you like that player. And of course, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We'll have fades and sleepers dropping tomorrow morning, talking about some of the overhyped and underhyped players for the Mexico Open. So make sure you don't miss that. Subscribe so you get notification when that goes up. Also, we'll have our live stream Wednesday evening. That'll be at 7 p.m. Eastern time, going through the weather, all of your live questions. We'll talk DFS chalk, go through some prop stuff together, build a few lineups, talk cash plays, go over everything you need to know before lock. Get ready to make some money this weekend and have a good time in the process. So looking forward to it. I will see you guys for that tomorrow evening. But until then, best of luck with all of your builds, any outright bets you decide to go with. In terms of these value plays, I did end up betting Akshay, Will Gordon, and Cameron Champ. Did not pull the trigger on somebody like Fratelli. Maybe I bet him for a top 10, that sort of thing. But in a field that's this week, certainly the top guys, Tony Finau, John Rahm, both worth considering from the outright market, and I did bet Tony Finau quite heavily this week. But some of these long shots, especially if those 2 guys just end up floundering out, right, maybe just finishing at 20th, one of those guys is more than live to win this event. So definitely, if you're betting one of those guys down low, maybe it's your top value play of the week, go ahead and let me know why as well. But until then, like I said, best of luck, and I'll catch you guys for the stream tomorrow evening.